Alrighty, well, thank you all for joining here. Today we're going to be talking about why reviews matter in search. I'm particularly very excited for today's webinar because we know how important reviews are, to the customer experience, right? Where if someone has a bad experience with a brand, they maybe write a review about that experience. That's now a great opportunity, to not only identify an unhappy customer, but to then provide that person with a much better experience. Not to mention, I know, most people on here probably read reviews as well as maybe how business owners respond to those reviews before they make a purchase or visit a business in person, right? But for today's webinar, we're going to be talking about the benefits that aren't typically associated with reviews, and that's their impact on search. We also want to make today's content as interactive and engaging as possible. So today we'll be showing a mix of slides as well as demoing live experiences throughout today's presentation. And of course, I mentioned a little bit earlier, but as a reminder, if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, throw those in the chat and we will do our best to answer as many of those as we can at the end. So for speakers today, you have myself, Trent Ruffalo, as well as Sherman Tabor. We are both on the product marketing team here at Yext. And to give you just a quick rundown of today's agenda, we're going to first cover all the different ways that reviews influence search results. Next, we'll provide some tips and different strategies that can help you optimize your reputation specifically for search. And then lastly, before answering any questions that you guys might have, Sherman will provide a demo for how you can implement those tips and strategies within Yext. So how reviews influence search results. So when we look at a site like Google, right, and how they determine where to rank businesses in search, it's based on three main criteria that's known as what's called distance, relevance, and prominence. So distance takes location into consideration, right? Where if you're looking for a business and you're in New York City, Google isn't going to present a business that's located in Georgia as an option, right? Relevance, the second sort of criteria there, refers to how relevant a business is to the search query. So in this case, if you're looking for a hardware store, for example, Google isn't going to showcase an Italian restaurant, for example, right? Because it's not relevant for what we're searching for. That last piece is what's known as prominence. And prominence consists of a number of different things, but one of the biggest parts of prominence is the brand's reputation online, right? We can actually extract the definition of what Google refers to when we say online reputation, right? So we can see that Google will explicitly state that your review count and average rating factor into local search, right? So by definition, what does that actually mean? It means your online reputation consists of the review count, so how many reviews you have, your average rating, so what is that star rating associated with your reviews, and then lastly is the recency of your reviews, right? So it's not a great signal to Google, right, if your business hasn't received a review in, let's just say, over 6 months. So as I mentioned, we wanted this to be super interactive, right? And so what I wanted to do is actually go through some live examples that I've queued up here to really show what this means in practice, right? And we wanted to look at search in two different types of ways. There are what's called branded and unbranded searches. And I would argue that, the majority of marketers care about showing up for those unbranded types of searches, right? Here we have an example of what that might look like, searching for a coffee shop in Marco Island, Florida. I chose Marco Island because I'm from South Florida. And as a kid, this was my favorite place to vacation with my family. So to give you an example of what an unbranded search looks like, right? So we're searching for a coffee shop in general, not a specific brand that like a Starbucks, for example, right? So searching for a coffee shop, we're going to show you some of the different ways that reviews are being influenced here, right? So we already saw in Google's definition, right, that reviews do make up, how they determine, the results that might show up in this local pack here. But what I wanted to do is actually just vary this search ever so slightly by just adding the word best to this query, right? So instead of just searching for coffee shop in Marco Island, Florida, which is what we can see here, we can see we just added the word best, right? So we're now looking for best coffee shop in Marco Island, Florida. And what you can see are, a number of things. One, Google pre-filters the results here to only determine businesses that are 4 stars and above. That's because Google, when they're determining what the best, whatever business is, or, maybe a great product that you might be including in your search query, Google is going to lean very heavily on those ratings and reviews, right? They don't know what the best coffee shop is, which is why you can see they usually pre-filter the results to only include businesses that are 4 stars and above. So not only can we see that, that filter being applied there in the search, but we can also see how the results vary as well. So the 3 businesses that are made up here, are not the same results that we have here, right? If we're going back to this first result, we see Cafe San Marco has 3.8 stars, right? So as a result, when we do add that word best to our query, that business doesn't even have the eligibility to show up for this type of search, right? So just a clear sort of practice, an example of how ratings and reviews are impacting the search results here. These are what's called unbranded searches, right? There's also a number of other things that Google will look at as it relates to reviews. So again, we included in our search best coffee shop in Marco Island, Florida. Well, it's not just the ratings and reviews that Google is looking at, right? They're actually looking at the content of the reviews themselves. So here we can actually see these little snippets that are being displayed within the search results. Here we can see best coffee on the island, as always, great coffee, great coffee. These are actual keywords that are being extracted from the review content from people that have left a review about these businesses. And what Google is doing is they are featuring those on the listings themselves because these are super relevant and they are keywords that match to the query here. So technically, there's not any sort of science that will validate having the review content boosting your ranking in search, but there is a very clear and strong correlation with the businesses that Google features and having the review content that matches the different search descriptions. So these are just some of the ways that we can see reviews impacting search when we're looking at specifically those unbranded types of searches. Again, if you guys have any questions throughout this webinar, feel free to throw those in the chat. We want this to be engaging and interactive as well. So just a couple of examples there of unbranded searches. What I'm now going to do is hop over to a different tab and show you exactly how reviews are influencing what we would call a branded search, right? So instead of just searching for a generic coffee shop, we are searching for a specific brand. In this case, we're searching for a farmer's agent named Richard So. What I first want to call out is Richard So's knowledge card page. This is his business profile page that shows up here on the right. Of course, his listing with all the relevant information that we might want to know about Richard So. What I want to do though is scroll down here to the bottom, and what you'll notice is Google featuring review sources and ratings, not just on Google, but of course from other sites. Here we're pulling in Facebook as well as Wallet Hub. And one of those sources being first-party reviews that Richard So has generated himself, right? So these are the farmer's agents reviews that Richard So, in this case, has requested feedback from clients that he's worked with. And what he has done is he has published those reviews directly on his website page. So if we go directly to Richard So's website page, we can see very clearly here, we have those reviews that were being pulled into his knowledge card page on Google. And those are now on display here as well. And once we wait for this page to load here, we will actually show you some of the reviews and how those are impacting the search experience that we saw on the Google search results page. So in the meantime, while this loads, we can probably scroll down as well to find the reviews themselves. But here is the link, the page that these reviews are being pulled in on. And what's interesting to note is if we go back to the search engine results page here for Richard So, what I want to call out is sort of the star rating that is being featured in the top left here, right? So this is Richard So's website page. And because Richard So has generated what we call first-party reviews, and that those reviews are properly marked up with schema, Google will sometimes reward those businesses that have those reviews properly marked up with the average rating sort of displayed here with the star rating resemblance, right? Obviously, this is great for search. If I'm searching for Richard So, I'm considering working with him as a life insurance agent. That star rating being prominently displayed, not only just helps, sort of add validation and credibility to Richard So, but is then more likely to lead to higher click-through rates and just helps overall with search performance. And so what we want to look at now is, what does properly markup schema mean? Well, what we can actually do is very easily test this ourselves. So if we go back to that website page and we go to the reviews that were left on Richard So's page, we can actually use what's called Google's rich results test. So if we go to his reviews and we copy this link, we can actually go to what's called results test. And this link should hopefully be the first one that pops up. And what we can do is we can take that website URL, we can paste it in there with the reviews source that we're using, and we can test this URL. I believe it'll take a minute or so for this to run. So what I've done is I've actually pulled it up on the side here. And here we will see is the schema that this page was able to detect. A sample of those will be the review snippets that were pulled in here. So those reviews that were on Richard's page, what we can see are the properly marked up schema to be able to then, from Google's perspective, determine, okay, this is Richard So, a person, a review rating of 5 was left, and here's the body of the review. So basically the schema is the sort of proper markup and the language that they use to then determine, what was actually said, what's the person, what's the product. This is really just the back-end language that Google uses. So having those reviews, again, marked up properly is just something that Google can do to then reference and pull in to the search results page and the experience here on Google. So just a couple examples there of what different search experiences look like, as well as how reviews are impacting those as well. So what we'll now do is hop back into the slides version. Again, any questions, feel free to throw those into the chat. So what we want to do is now just cover some different tips and strategies to help you optimize your reputation, specifically as it relates to search, right? One thing that you can do is simply respond to reviews, right? So looking at our customer data here, we see a very strong correlation of businesses that respond that have a higher average rating, right? So those that were responding to at least half of their reviews are rated, 0.35 stars higher than businesses who don't respond at all, right? So that 0.35 stars, 3.5 stars, excuse me, can make a huge impact when we think about the performance in search, right? So if we're taking a 3.75 star business up to a 4+ star rating, now we're eligible for, showing up for those best type of searches, right? When someone's searching for a best coffee shop near me. And not to mention those higher ratings, correlate to better search performance and positioning as well. So those 4- and 5-star businesses are positioned almost 10% higher in the local pack than businesses that are rated 2 or 3 stars. So when we respond to reviews, what are some, key tips that we can actually focus on to get the biggest impact on search, right? So the key thing there is to focus on the keywords and the content of the review itself when you are responding. We do want to acknowledge, and yes, there are a number of different strategies that businesses can take when responding to reviews. You have to take into consideration, what's the customer experience like. Here we're focusing on the search performance and what are the things that we can do to optimize for that sort of positioning, right? So as we showed earlier, Google will, crawl a number of different sources to deliver what they feel is the most relevant, business to then feature in search. One of those sources, as we saw, is the content of the review itself. So if we can use the same sort of keywords that that people are using in their reviews, as well as people are searching for on Google, that can, potentially help us, sort of rank better on search, even though there may not be any sort of science behind it, but it's clear that Google is crawling the content of the reviews themselves. Next, you're going to want to learn why your ratings are trending maybe one way or another, whether those are positively or negatively. It's really, really important to understand, what's the root of those sort of trending ratings there, right? So do we want to know if, your ATMs might be broken, or people love they love the pancakes at your restaurant, right? We want to, firmly understand what are the very strong sentiments that are contributing to both those positive and negative sentiment scores. Sherman will kind of walk through a demo there in just a bit to kind of show you what we mean by that. And then lastly, as it relates to, just sort of enhancing the search experience, is being able to generate those first-party reviews and having those properly marked up with schema, right? Not only does that improve and enhance the website experience when someone goes to your brand's page, but then again, we saw examples of how Google, will sometimes reward those businesses by featuring that star rating in the top left there in the top of the search engine results page. So just some different tips and strategies that we recommend. Again, this is specifically as it relates to search. We know, again, that there are a number of different strategies to take, when responding to reviews, but these are just some, hopefully some tips and tricks to potentially give your brand that sort of one leg up when it comes to showing up in search. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Sherman now to kind of walk through some of the different features and functionality that touched on the different tips and tricks there that we just talked about.
Sweet. Thank you, Trent. All right, so now we will hop into the platform so that I can show you a couple of ways to basically accomplish those strategies that Trent was talking about. So we're going to look at 2 different tools today in the Yext platform. We'll start with our sentiment analysis tool, which will help you be more effective in monitoring your online reputation, your reviews. And then we will take a look at our intelligent review response tool. So starting off with sentiment analysis, this is a great way to keep track of what people are saying about all the different parts of your brand in the reviews that they're leaving. So in the sentiment analysis tool, you'll see all of the keywords that are coming up frequently in your reviews over to the left with a sentiment score here in the middle, and then all of the top modifiers that people are using to describe those keywords over here on the right. The main thing that I want to call attention to here is that this numeric sentiment score is way more helpful than just a general sort of, positive sentiment, negative sentiment, or neutral sentiment, because it allows you to see not only how people feel about a specific keyword, but how strongly they feel about a specific keyword as well. And that can help you be more strategic in how you spend your efforts to focus on those different keywords. So to kind of make that a little bit clearer, let's take a look at two different keywords. We'll start by looking at reviews that mention wait times. So you'll notice that waits as a keyword has an overall sentiment of -12, which is negative, but not super negative. If you click into some of the reviews, you'll notice that they generally are kind of mixed sentiment. People had a decent experience and tended to call out that there are long waits, but that gets kind of a moderately negative sentiment score of -12. Now, let's compare that to the keyword floors. So by comparison, one sec. Go. So when we take a look at the keyword floors, you'll notice that the sentiment score is negative here again, but this time it's way more negative. We have a score of -80 instead of -12. This makes a lot of sense when you click into the reviews and see that they are overall super negative. And you can tell that the floors here are actually contributing to why people are really, really unhappy with their experience, rather than just something that was moderately negative. And so knowing this numeric sentiment score would help you decide to focus your energies on making sure that the floors are clean, because that's going to be more impactful than trying to figure out how to improve people's wait times based on those sentiment scores. So now we'll hop into the review response tool. So in the Yext platform, we provide several ways to respond to reviews. We allow for free form response if you want to just have at it and type out a response from scratch. If you have a review that doesn't have a lot of information in the body and it might just merit a quick response, you can also use response templates. But today we're going to talk about our tool called Intelligent Review Response. And what that does is kind of help you take a middle approach where you use some templating tools, but you don't have to use just a full-on template. So we're going to take a look at ratings that mention reviews that mention food, and we will pop into this review to respond. So you can see that the tool offers us the ability to use these mini templated responses that identify keywords that were left in the review, and use our intelligent review response software to help you respond directly to those. So we'll see John Smith, the leaver of the review, is auto-populated into our greeting. We can choose a value statement to say, at a completely different place, we strive to do our best. And then based on these sentiment keywords, we can choose a keyword and have a response that is tailored specifically to that keyword. So here, this reviewer mentioned that the server was rude. We are able to say it is unacceptable that you experienced a rude server. And then we can select a closing to end the review, and that's our response. Now, this is really helpful because if you have people who are searching for certain keywords, the modifiers that you use in these structured responses can be crawled by Google and show up in those examples like Trent was showing before, for things like, best coffee near me. This would pull up if you used a templated review response to say, maybe somebody said your coffee was delicious, and you can respond and say, we're so glad that you liked our delicious coffee. That structured response for that keyword will be scraped by Google, and then can be served up by Google when people search for a similar keyword. Great. So now we'll just hop back into the deck. And as mentioned before, if anybody has any questions, please pop those into the chat. And here are some options for how to learn more. So you can go to hitchhikers.com to sign up to be a hitchhiker for more content like this. Go through our learning modules to earn your reviews badge. And then feel free to share on social platforms with your friends and coworkers the things that you've learned. So thanks for joining today, and I will open it up now for Q&A.
Yeah, before doing that, just want to say definitely can't recommend Hitchhikers enough. So please check out the site. Allows you to not only expand with, and engage with our community, but, certainly test your knowledge with a number of different search experts as well. So like we said, now we'll jump into some Q&A and see what questions we had that rolled in. And it looks like we are seeing now that the chat was disabled. Someone had mentioned, so to use the QA tab if you do have any questions. So apologies for that. So if you do have any questions, please throw those in the Q&A portion of the Zoom and not the chat. Okay, it looks like we had will this deck be available? There will be a recording. So it looks like we just had a question asking if this deck will be available. What we will do is we will send out a recording of this presentation afterwards, as well as posting the link on YouTube as well. And we'll share that with everyone. So you'll have access to the recording here for that. So it looks like there was also a question as it relates to sentiment analysis. Someone wondering how you're able to determine what the what the numerical value is on the different keywords. Specifically asking, how do you take into context if a keyword is actually supposed to have negative sentiment versus, the positive sentiment in the review itself. So I think if I'm reading that correctly, the example there is someone saying, the pancakes were sick, or something along those lines, where the sentiment really is positive, but sometimes it can be taken with sort of negative connotations there. So what we're able to do is actually lean on Google's natural language processing API to determine what that numerical value is. They're certainly, the best when it comes to understanding natural language. So that is the API that we're using to then leverage and then provide a numerical value based on -100 and between +100. Yeah, so just to clarify, using keywords in responses to reviews helps filter them to Google for better search position. Yeah, so just to be clear, Google doesn't clearly state that, keywords in reviews will help performance in search. But what we are able to see is that there's a very strong correlation in the review content itself being obviously not only crawled, but then featured on the search results. So it could potentially help you. And that's what we're saying is not only does it contribute to a better positive customer experience, but there is a sort of secondary potential benefit of using those keywords as well, and potentially Google crawling those to then help, further their judgment when they're determining what is the most relevant result to determine based on this search query. Are the review snippets, we have another question, that surface in the local pack the same as review justifications? And the answer is yes, that's exactly what those are. They are referred to as review justifications. So those snippets that were displayed there are called justifications, and there are a number of different justifications that Google will feature. For example, if you're looking for, maybe someone is doing a search for General Tso's chicken near me. Well, there's also a different justifications based on like the menu items that you have that Google might feature as well. So yes, the answer is those are review justifications that are surfacing in the local pack. All very good questions though, so thank you. Please keep them coming. Okay, we'll give it another 30 seconds or so to see if anyone else has any other questions. So again, if you do have anything else, please feel free to throw it in that Q&A. Okay, so it looks like we had another question that just came in asking, is there any benefit in using keywords that have negative sentiment, or should we try to only focus on using words with positive to moderate sentiment? And that is a very good question. And so here's our point of view on that. Again, the purpose of the demonstration was to mainly focus on keywords that have positive sentiment when trying to optimize for search. And the reason being is because there are other strategies that you want to weigh in and factor when taking a reputation management strategy, right? So if someone leaves a negative 1-star review and they're complaining about the poor service or whatever it is that it might be, I would argue that it's much more impactful to address the unhappy customer and to do whatever we can to, keep that person as a customer and to really do whatever it is necessary to provide them with a better customer experience. So I would, argue that, the customer experience for this individual is going to outweigh sort of the benefits of, responding to the portion of the review that maybe isn't going to sway that person one way or another. So that's just another sort of thing to consider is the customer experience, in addition to sort of the potential SEO benefits that you might get by using keywords in your responses. Okay, so it looks like we had just another question that came in here. And the question is, will responding to perceived review spam or fake reviews help in any way to have them removed, if to then flag them on Google? For example, we might have reviews that are often left for the wrong business. We flag these, but would it help to respond to them to make it clear to Google and users that they've likely been left in error? Yes, especially when it comes to users. I think being authentic and genuine about responding and providing clarification on, maybe we haven't had any experience or knowledge of working with you. Yes, certainly goes a long way from a consumer's perspective, but it certainly can't hurt from Google's perspective when you do flag those reviews for them to be removed as well. Yep, so we got another question here. Please keep them coming. These are all great questions. We have one about more detail on the examples for those first-party reviews that were displayed on one of the landing pages there. What coding is used? I haven't seen a turnkey way. So basically, there are a number of different methods to publish reviews on a landing page, for example. So there are different APIs or widgets, for example, that can be used. So really, it's just based on sort of the business and the developer work that's needed. But that would probably be, the most clear-cut way as far as getting those reviews that you've then generated and publishing those onto a landing page. Okay, so we also have another question here asking if we can speak more to the benefit of having custom responses to each review as opposed to using cookie cutter templated responses. Absolutely. So I will look at this mainly from the consumer's perspective, where if you are a consumer evaluating a business and you are not only reading the reviews, but you are also reading the responses to the reviews and how those business owners are responding. If I'm looking at what's clear to me, a cookie cut templated response, that's for me that speaks volume of a business. It's something that I want to see that the business owner is taking genuine measures to respond and really ensure that they care about the customer experience. Not to mention if you're the reviewer itself. So if I, for example, left a review and I received a response that was clearly, just templated and didn't actually address what I wrote in the review itself, well, that honestly might be worse than not getting a response itself, because that actually shows me that the business owner doesn't even really care to, genuinely address, sort of the points of view or the content that I wrote. So I would say certainly the benefits of having those custom responses, goes a number of different ways, not only from reaching out to the person who left the review, but also sort of the potential impact that other potential customers might be seeing how you're responding to those reviews. So in the demo that Sherman had provided, there are a number of different building block templates that sort of use AI to respond to different portions of a review. We recommend sort of switching those up every 3 to 4 months, just so that way you're keeping those templates and those responses fresh as well. Okay, another great question here. So we had asking about the inclusion of Facebook reviews being pulled in to that branded search, an automatic feature of Google search, or is there some sort of connection that has to be made externally between the profile and Google? And that is a great question. So there isn't an automatic feature, and there's no sort of connection that directly correlates Facebook to Google or vice versa, or any other review sources for that matter. Basically, what that was why those review sources were featured is, Google will crawl a number of different sources to, not only help determine where they rank businesses in search, but also to then enhance their own search experience. So that's why it's important to not just focus on your ratings, not, on Google, whether that might be the most important, site that we care about, but we can clearly see that Google is crawling and looking for a number of sources out there to just best, help their own search experience as well. So it just so happens that Facebook and Wallet Hub or NerdWallet, I forget which was the other one, as well as Richard So's first party reviews were the 3 sources that were pulled in. Those are just based on Google crawling the web out there, and those were the sources that it happened to pull in to the knowledge card there. All very good questions. Looks like that's about it. We'll hang on here for another 30 seconds or so and see if any others filter in here. But all very good questions. So thank you all for being engaged and obviously making this interactive for us as well. Well, we got a little shout out and a tire pump thanking us for time and expertise and that this has been extremely helpful. We really appreciate that. So thank you. We'll hang on here for another minute or so and see if anything else comes in. All right, well, I think that's about it. Again, we do want to say thank you all for joining and attending today. We really hope you found this helpful. Again, we'll follow up with a recording. We'll share this on our YouTube channel as well, so you'll have access to the recording to reference for any future endeavors. But again, want to say thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.